Hey y'all, grown black folks talk. The less time you spend looking at the foolery, the more time you have to see the fantastic. I really want us to get into this for 2024. Um, I want to thank several of my subscribers who keep me informed and friends who keep me informed about what goes on in the Black YouTube spaces. But I was actually saddened today by a piece of information. I'm not surprised, but saddened to be right. Um, you're going to see this Christmas Eve morning. So happy Christmas and our Kwanzaa weekend. We probably have a few of you who are, connected enough with Black history to be looking at the Egyptian holidays. I probably have some solstice people. Whatever it is you're celebrating, enjoy. But without any regard to that, people who are looking at the foolery and engaging the foolery are doing exactly what I expected them to do around the color purple. The Color Purple in the original featured a quite abusive black lead character, Mister. And black men then and now really were angered by his portrayal. So angering was the first Color Purple that no less than the late Mr. Kevin Samuels felt he had to speak out against it about 38 years late, but it was that triggering. And he was 53 at the time of his passing. So he would have been encountered, he would have been about 15, 16 to my maybe 5 or 6 at that time. And that caused a debate. And then, of course, this new remake as a musical has come out. And the conversations, unfortunately, are predictable. I knew that was going to be the case. But see, I have removed myself from all circles in which this has to be part of my constant conversation. 18 months is long enough for me to now be able to say definitively. Because here's what I see right now in the world. I look for people who are for the right and who are on their purpose, like me. And I meet black men and black women who are that. I see people doing fantastic things. I keep mentioning Mr. Cyrus Webb. Mr. Cyrus Webb is now #2 Amazon Live. So you go on his show, you get sales. If your book is of interest, you get sales. I have a privilege of working with black men and women who are securing 9 figures worth of stuff. I don't live in a circle where I have to be worried about the foolery every day. And since I'm no longer in online circles where that has to be my concern 2 or 3 times a week, it no longer exists functionally. It will not exist for me in 2024 because I ain't gonna have it over here. That doesn't even functionally exist for me. We will go on Wa Aunties, but when I talk about confidence love is over it. She got one answer for y'all. Call 9MM 380. She got an answer for y'all. She's over it too. She's like, as far as I'm concerned, all these other people, all they need to do is keep black women out of their mouths and don't come over here with the foolishness. She's already made her step. She does not spend over much of her time. Now she will look because she refers to herself as a goddess-born warrior. Now a warrior has to get reconnaissance. A warrior has to know what's going on. I do my fair share of reconnaissance. I appreciate my subscribers to let me know what's going on out there, so that I can look at if my theories of what's happening are correct. I can have it confirmed with evidence. I appreciate that. You do need to do reconnaissance because there are people who are generals on the front line, and then there are people out there that do strategy from the back. And if you look at the way Confidence with Love and I match up on Aunties, you see kind of that match. Now, don't get it twisted. Anybody in San Francisco knows. Anybody who remembers me from being a moderator on Themes and Thought, if you put me in a situation where you have to bring out the onward Christian soldier side, you will meet her. And I don't want you to meet her, and you don't want to either. Got the voice of Lady Vader and the fingers of Lady Palpatine. I'll get you on either side. But nobody needs to do that. That's necessary. And as I've said to y'all before, I've said this again about Auntie Love. Remember over here, when stuff happens to you, I believe in the redemption. She came up with a comment on my page, but I haven't even used the word in about 3 or 4 years. You go over there, you go from dealing with a fictional character in Star Wars to dealing with hell hath no fury like me. Don't do it. 2024, that's not no. Don't do it. But what I want to say about that is when we come together to discuss the foolishness that's going on, we're talking about actual things. She was kind enough to send me the Heritage Foundation playbook of what they want for the next Republican president to do in order to secure their white supremacist theocracy. White, too many different words. White supremacist Christian theocracy in this country. It's like 925 pages. We talk about the facts and the stats that Black women are going through, and we attempt to put together skills. We're going to be coming together on Friday the 29th, as a matter of fact. As we do our year-end roundup on all this. We put together things for people who are ready to, all right, we know the foolery is there. This is also the reason I did the video about incorrigibility. Understand, let it be enough. See, for me, 2022 and 2023 was enough for me to know that Black men who are lost to the foolery and the Black women that want to support the foolery are lost for now. But Confidence for Love isn't even Christian, and she'll keep telling you, don't let people use you as Jesus. Let him get the prayer request. Let him do the work of getting people to repentance. It's not my job. One of the things you learn from listening to Stephanie Perry, she will tell you right away. My name is Stephanie Perry, and I do as little as possible. Now, if you follow Stephanie Perry, you look at the infrastructure that she and Adelia Borshade and Rashida Dow have actually built for Black women who are ready to stop doing everything, anything, and everything for everybody but themselves. You see that they do quite a lot. But in terms of trying to convince people that don't want to be convinced, and in terms of holding up systems that do not support us as Black women, oh, they're done with all that. They do as little as possible to hold that up. As well they should. Because when you remove the foolery from your life, I spend a certain amount of time every day and every week because doing reconnaissance triggers your algorithm a little. But I spend time making sure that I put do not recommend when I see foolery I don't entertain. I don't entertain channels that entertain the foolery. As I said, after 18 months is long enough to say this. I respect the right of anyone to do whatever they want with their channel because I'm going to do that with mine. But with that, I should say, and with that, I don't want to negate that. That's a statement by itself. Conjunction, coordinating conjunction, and with that, if you keep on making a home for contrary Black men and not doing sufficient work to challenge that and provide Black women alternatives, I have to assume that you're more in agreement than not. Because if you were sincerely against it, you would call it out. Mr. Alan Davis is pretty consistent. Alan, did I call him Aaron? Excuse me, Aaron, my bad. Mr. Aaron Davis is pretty consistent in how he comes up in here. He sees the foolery, he calls it out. I appreciate that. I really do. He's against the foolery that some Black men are practicing. And because of men like him, I can say, okay, it's not all 15 million. I don't know what that number would happen to be. I think Muhammad Ali probably gave one of the best explanations of this. Of course, he was talking about white men, white people. He said, I know they're good white people. I don't have time to go looking for one. But here's the thing. When you stop focusing on what people are doing wrong all the time and look away from that, what you see depends on what you're looking for and looking at. I rejoice to say that I can find people who are doing right of every race, including my own. I look for it. Therefore, I see it. If I were convinced that we were useless, I would find plenty of evidence of that also. And I'm not talking about bigotry and its manifestations. I'm talking about at 42, I can look through my own experiences and be convinced. The last 2 years have been really rough in that respect. But I wasn't put here to be a muckraker. One of the scenes from the Pilgrim's Progress that is well known, um, he's the muckraker, and he's breaking through the muck looking for buried treasure. Meanwhile, above him, there's an angel standing with a crown. But the implication is he will never see it because his focus is on what he thinks is beneath him down below. And therefore, down below he will go. 100 and maybe 250 years later, there's a scene at the end of a song cycle by Austrian composer Schubert, Der Lehrmann, the hurdy-gurdy. And it's the same tone played out again. This young man has gone on a very long, terrible journey, and there is a village. It is wintertime. He's been walking through the winter outdoors, but he's still strong enough to press on a little further if he wants to. But he finds his attention attracted by this equally doomed hurdy-gurdy player. And he asks him, will you play your song, my songs on your hurdy-gurdy? The implication is this young man is so interested in having his viewpoint about his lost love put forth that he has not noticed that the dogs are growling around the old man, waiting for him to tip over and die. Neither of them, since there's no one out there, plate for his little plate for donations is empty. There's nobody with the Salvation Army ringing a little bell for him. The dogs are growling around him, waiting for him to tip over. He's barefoot and ragged. One more good cold winter night, and he's a goner. But he's still got this little hurdy-gurdy, and he's playing, and his fingers have already frozen, and he's barefoot in the snow. And because this young man is so interested in finding a companion who is willing to share his misery, he therefore gives up the only chance he has to in order to make it to safety. And to understand this, you have to understand Schubert is Catholic. So the idea about the city on the hill, city of God, St. Augustine, would have been part of, well, he was raised Catholic, would have been part of his understanding. The idea that safety uh, could be ahead of you if you could get there is there if you choose it. But no, the young man in Winterreise does not. He essentially chooses death right there. Like the muckraker, salvation is at hand. Glorification is at hand. But to beat out his little tune and to have his viewpoint foisted on the world, he chooses, and every time the song is sung, that he chooses death again and again, again, again. This is what a lot of people are doing online. Like I told y'all earlier in the year about the story of Don Giovanni, who does exactly the same thing because he wants to be justified in his womanizing and his abuse. The opera starts with an attempted rape in some versions that's interpreted. So Don Giovanni, Don Juan, as some of you would know him, that's a familiar story. He's a high value man, an alpha male, and will not give it up. And of course, whatever one does, one pays, as it was said in the original version of that. Um, Same thing. A lot of people have made up their mind about this. They are faithful to the foolery until death, like the crow that is following the young man in Winterreise for several of the 24 songs, knowing that that crows know he's going to get his meal because that young man's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. Those dogs rounding around that older man with the siren song and the hurdy-gurdy, like those old men in the black community who are, what did the poor Rochester call them? The disabled dissolutes. Encourage younger men in the foolery so they can live vicariously through them producing side bait. Who is a football player that has like 10 child support payments and is basically working to keep himself from being jailed for not being able to pay? I forget who that was, but there are older men encouraging this foolery online. Some of these members of the manosphere are old enough to know better than the best, but because they don't want to repent, they hope that if enough people do it, just like Satan is going to gather multiple armies before the end of the age and has had multiple countries, whole groups and gugobs of world leaders, multiple countries, and keeps on making his bid for the United States of America, too. It wouldn't be the first bid either. It wouldn't be the first successful bid either. But see, the thing about it is, the people that have chosen it have chosen it. And what we have to do is look away from the fool because there's still a lot of good that can be done. There's a lot of people. When I present my presentation on To the Color Purple Add Gold toward a more prosperous sisterhood, there are going to be some brothers that have some products in here that you should also know about. Just know that right now. If you are a bigot, see yourself out. It's that simple. Because if you have looked so hard at what people are doing wrong that you cannot admit and learn from a case where it's going well, you're a bigot. See yourself out. But we must develop the ability to turn our eyes and our attention away from that, to heal, to purge, and be able to see the opportunities that come from all around us. And I know that because I was protected by my father and by my grandfathers, it's easier for me to do than others. I understand that. With humility, I recognize that I'm able to have a perspective that other people do not have. I also must also say with humility that it is not my place to assume that other Black women are over exaggerating their experiences. I know they are not, because I have younger Black students who have been through unspeakable things with their own fathers. And those fathers have toyed with me and my father, and then got jacked up by my Heavenly Father at the end. I have seen Black men have everything taken from them because of the foolery. And I have seen Black women follow them straight down for one of two reasons. One, they're making excuses for the foolery and therefore and enabling the foolery and therefore catching the judgment. Or they spend so much time wrestling with the foolery, like Taraji Henson and acrimony, that they can't let go of being in the trauma bond and they end up getting dragged down as well. But the less time you spend soaking in the foolery, the less time you spend looking at the foolery, the less time you spend being around the foolery, it frees you to have time to see what is fantastic, to see other circles of Black men and women who are doing well together. Now, there's a limit to all things. Am I saying anything about you needing to make permanent arrangements with anyone? I'm not talking about you marrying. I'm not talking about you moving into. I'm not talking about relationships. I'm talking about you being able to work and live in a reasonable manner with people who are able to do the same thing. I'm talking about us moving away from whoever it is that whoever thinks that they need to have sex with. There is so much more to the life of the mind and to the emotions and to the spirit. You do know that your body is only one third of you and the part of you that's going to last the least amount of time, right? If you're an atheist, you don't necessarily believe this, and I understand that, and that's fine. You get to have that belief system. But still, you have a volition, you have emotions, you have intellect. We have to begin to be in circles where these things are nourished as well. We have to begin to understand that there are people who are maturing in every single phenotype, genotype. We are all human beings. We also have choices about how we spend our time and who we spend it with. If you need to be trauma bonded to the foolery, you are in this kind of match with the foolery. When you are ready to be done, you leave it. And does anybody need a refresher course on my leaving the foolery bona fides? You know who you can go ask, right? I do not say that it is easy. There are 25 people you can ask, some of whom still listen to me. Some of whom, because I watch them get their lives together, I still work with. It has not been easy. Listening to Schubert's Der Lehrmann was devastating to me because I finally had a musical picture of what I'm watching people in this country and in my community and in my online extended community doing. It was devastating to me. So then I decided to move on over to some things. I had to go back and find some Negro spirituals. I had to go and find Robert Schumann on a good day talking about silent tears, about how when you love people, you do go the last mile, even though, to the back, you cry a great deal. But when you can help people move forward, you suck it up, shed the tears, and make it happen. But when you can't, you can't. There's no changing that. But I guarantee you that when you stop trying to do what you are not called to do with people who do not want to do it anyway, it opens up your life. The artwork you see here, I didn't make that in the years that I was dealing with Hoover. I would have had the energy to do that. When I speak of adding gold to my purple, that did not come in the year that I was dealing with the foolery. I remember one week, 11 hours on one show. That couldn't have happened that year. In order to see what you need to see, be who you need to be, hear what you need to hear, and do what you need to do. You have to withdraw your energy from being with who you do not need to be with, seeing the foolery, hearing the foolery, and participating either as a willing particular or a heckler. You're still in the same building, listening to the same foolishness and participating. The Bible says quite clearly about this. In describing the world system as Babylon, come out from among them and be ye separate, and I will receive you, saith the Lord, as sons and daughters. Now, that's not written to all of you. If you're a Christian, if you know, you know. Why I had to make the moves I had to make in the past, yeah, it is 18 months now, as of the 20th, because I was called out. And some of you hearing me need to understand that you are being called out. Do not let your favorite hurdy-gurdy player, whoever that siren singer might be, cause you to miss your blessing in 2024. Don't be like that young man with the crows and the dogs and salvation just beyond, shining on the hill, and you just out here with the crows and the dogs because that hurdy-gurdy player, who himself is in great danger, is out here playing a tune that you want to sing your little song with. Don't let it happen to you in 2024. Some of you hearing me need to get up off the foolishness right now. This is your Sunday sermon. And as I say all the time, I'm going to be fair. When my content is no longer of use to you, should I, because I'm a human being, get tied too much up on one thing, feel free to let me know. And if you don't see me improving, feel free to protect yourself, even from me. I'm a human being. I can get off the rails myself. I try very hard to take a hot topic, age it a little bit, spend a day or two on it, and then get past it so that I can protect myself and this channel from that. But I'm human too, and humans can get off the rails. It's very easy for us to do that. But let it be enough for you. Do you not know that the national foolery of the United States of America by itself in 2024 may be enough to choke the life out of whatever freedom there's left in this country? We're not really careful and very focused. These little individuals sitting up here mad about the color purple are the least of our concerns on a national level. Although, if you too rubbed up on any of these people, you may not even live to go to the polls. 4.8 times it in 4.8 hours, almost what, 5 times a day? A black woman doesn't get away from the foolery soon enough and dies? But these are not the men who are about to wreck the republic. You got big fish to fry. You got to get focused. You got to get some things really settled down for yourself. Please get a passport. I'm not going anywhere as far as I know because I have responsibilities I have been called to here. But that doesn't mean all y'all have to do that. Please get a passport. Among other things. Please get your life together. I'm not just sitting up here saying that to you. If you live in a state where concealed carry is possible, I refer you to Confidence with Love. Her channel will help you get, and that's LUV. Auntie Love is LUV, not LOVE, LUV. Will help you get set up on that. Even in California, I'm just kind of watching things develop as it goes through the courts here, but the information is available. I know what I need to do. We also having a massive COVID bump right now. So taking 16-hour classes with anybody does not sound good at the moment, but high dose vitamin C is amazing, y'all. You gotta get used to that though. But I'm getting my knowledge base together now. But y'all, the less time you spend worried about what people who are dedicated to the foolery are doing, the more chances and time and energy you have using all the amazing information that is in front of us, all the information being provided by our sisters just in this circle, and even our brothers that have it together. If you can endure, if you can, I realize some of us have truly had some experience where this is not the wise thing for us to do right now. Granted, but there's plenty of wisdom to choose from. There's plenty of wisdom to listen to. There's so much by which you can make your life better than what it is. I looked at one of the things I'm doing right now, and if I can just keep up what I'm doing, if I do nothing but what I'm doing now, I will be making 10 times as much. Now, life changes, ability changes, time changes, because I got a lot of responsibility to do it. I may not be able to keep this up, but hey, I still plan for it, right? The plan is to plan for it because it can happen. Crypto bull run, still about 4 or 5 months before it really gets on and popping. I was looking at my accounts, making sure I'm positioned sufficiently. I'm investing my money and making sure my book is where it needs to be. I'm investing my time in that right now. But I want to put my time and my attention into positioning myself, not in worrying about what people that are not positioning themselves are going to be doing. Because what they're going to be doing in 2026 is complaining about all the stuff and how it's still black women's fault, or it's still black men's fault, or it's everybody's fault but theirs. Well, they could be getting the same information and moving. I refuse to be among them. And I hope you'll make the same refusal. The less time you spend looking at foolery, the more time you have to see and get involved in the fantastic. All right. That's a nice long, that's probably a longer Sunday sermon than my pastor would give on Christmas Eve. I am the daughter of a Baptist preacher, but that's my first, second, and third close. Y'all have a good Christmas Eve. And I keep saying this, I might get a walk in today. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Bye, y'all. Thank you for listening.